Do you think if marriages were harder to get out of, less people would get married?
I think currently, yes. Before, no.
Well, right. Before I'm talking about today.
So currently, yes, because there's this idea that it's supposed to be easy to get out of. We've been indoctrinated in our modern times to see marriage as this thing that, well, I don't like you anymore, I'm out. Like that's kind of how we've been indoctrinated to view it. But marriage isn't supposed to be just about love. It's supposed to be about love and legacy and preparing the next generation. That's what it's supposed to be about. It's not just supposed to be about how do I feel about how you love me, how I love you. That's a part of it. But it's supposed to be continuing to build your family legacy. And then your children have a different starting point than you had, and they continue to build on that legacy. It's not just supposed to be about just how the man and the woman feel day to day. It's not supposed to be that basic.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Couples Development Podcast. I am your co-host, Coach Clark, and I am here with
Coach Mel, and we are a husband and wife team of relationship coaches. So what do you want to talk about today, husband?
Let's discuss marriages.
Okay.
I don't want to use social media as, well, yeah, whatever. That's where people get their information from anyway. I'm seeing a lot of, that's why I don't want to get married. What's the point of getting married? Women are like, oh, getting married to just become a slave. And then men who don't have money, getting married, she's going to take half, all that kind of stuff. Do you think there's a misconception of what marriage is and what marriage is supposed to be about?
Yeah, I do. But first, I just want to clarify something. Are you seeing a lot of people that are saying, what's the point of marriage or what's the point of relationships in general?
No, they're saying marriage.
Just marriage. Yeah, but so they're seeing the point of relationships, but they're not seeing the point of marriage.
That's a really good question. Again, I think they're specifically targeting the marriage industry or marriage institution itself.
Okay.
Because I don't know how many people prefer to go through life alone. I don't know how many people prefer to not have a love interest of some kind. So, yeah, I think it's the institution of marriage that is under attack. The family unit and preserving it is under attack, I think.
Yeah, I think that I can agree with you on that. And I think the reason that marriage is under attack, the institution of marriage is under attack, is because people have this desire to make marriage something that's easy to get out of. And marriage is not supposed to be something that's easy to get out of. It's not its purpose. So what's happened is people now have a desire to turn what a marriage was before into what a girlfriend and boyfriend situation is currently. Meaning that you can easily break up, you take your stuff, you go your way, I take my stuff, I go my way, and we're good. That's what a boyfriend and a girlfriend do, right? So there's this idea that they can still call it a marriage, but still use the same system that they use in a boyfriend-girlfriend situation where it's like, you take what's yours, I take what's mine, we break up, clean cut, no disputes or anything like that. That's just the way that I see it. That's the expectation that people have of marriage. But marriage isn't supposed to be something that's easy to get out of. It's not supposed to be.
So would you say it's something like marriage with a contingency plan, pretty much? That's what we live in now?
I guess so. Yeah. It's literally, they want it to be the same thing that it is when you're a boyfriend and girlfriend. That's how people talk about marriage now.
I was watching, I forgot which one it was, but we were watching a YouTube channel where a divorce lawyer was saying he doesn't understand why anyone gets married without a prenuptial agreement. He said, no matter how much you make, whatever it is, there needs to be some type of, some type of like written contract per se as to, hey, this is what I expect from you. This is what you expect from me, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I don't think the prenup is what should make it easy to get out of. But I'll explain to you what I mean by a prenup. The reason why, what I mean is, humans can go into anything with the best of intentions, thinking that they will do great at something and then be a complete failure at it. And the reason why I think a prenup type of contract, I don't want to call it prenup because I don't know legally exactly what a prenup has to say. I don't know. I'm just using that term just loosely here. Is that in order for both men and women to get what they need out of a marriage and survival, I do think that having some sort of contract from the beginning kind of eases people's survival concerns. It kind of removes that, oh my God, what if this doesn't work? Oh my God, what if this doesn't work? Oh my God, what if this doesn't work? Which can increase the connection, the bond, and the internal peace between that couple. So I do think they should have something like that, which basically says what the big sins are that will lead to a divorce and how the wife will be taken care of should they end up getting divorced. And I say the wife just because traditionally it's usually the husband getting the prenup. Not that there aren't women that get prenups, but traditionally it's usually the contingency plan is usually to make sure that the wife is taken care of in some type of way, should they get divorced.
With the way modern feminism is going right now, the way modern women are, many of them, more and more, especially in our community, more and more are graduating professionals, and more are starting to earn closer to six figures, if not over. In the instances where she is making more than him, do you think the same should apply?
I think the same applies both ways.
Got it.
A lot of men will be against that, but I think it applies both ways if she requires that he takes on the traditional wife roles. So now I'll explain to you what I mean by that. So what?
Go ahead. That's not going to go over well at all.
What?
That is not going to go over well at all.
Well, I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. So the reason why there's a contingency plan financially, I guess, for the wife, should they get divorced, is traditionally the husband expects that the wife is a homemaker, takes care of the children, is there catering to him, nurturing him, supporting him and his goals. So that means that if that marriage breaks up, that means that she has nothing to fall back on or very little to fall back on. Now, if there's a marriage where the woman is making more than the man and the man has nothing or very little to fall back on because he took a lot of time off to take care of the children, take care of the house, nurture her, support her, and feed into her career goals, then I think that there should be some sort of prenup that makes sure that should that marriage break up, that he is able to survive and live and thrive and all of that.
Because I'm assuming he'd had full custody, meaning that he was the one taking care of the kids in the first place.
I can't say because from my understanding, most states now pretty much automatically go straight to joint custody unless there's some type of. From my understanding, I could be wrong.
Men are out here going, child support, child support.
No, I've
well,
heard,
that's the difference.
From what I've read, at least it could be wrong. From what I've read, at least most states, not everywhere, but in most states, it's mostly joint custody, barring any major situation, barring extenuating circumstances or something that's really harmful or something like that. It's usually falls into a joint custody type of situation. But again, I could be wrong about that. I haven't read much about that, so I'm not certain.
Do you think if marriages were harder to get out of, less people would get married?
I think currently, yes. Before, no.
Well, right. Before I'm talking about today.
So currently, yes, because there's this idea that it's supposed to be easy to get out of. We've been indoctrinated in our modern times to see marriage as this thing that, well, I don't like you anymore, I'm out. Like that's kind of how we've been indoctrinated to view it. But marriage isn't supposed to be just about love. It's supposed to be about love and legacy and preparing the next generation. That's what it's supposed to be about. It's not just supposed to be about how do I feel about how you love me, how I love you. That's a part of it. But it's supposed to be continuing to build your family legacy. And then your children have a different starting point than you had, and they continue to build on that legacy. It's not just supposed to be about just how the man and the woman feel day to day. It's not supposed to be that basic. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. That is a difference between a relationship, being a boyfriend and girlfriend, and a marriage. A marriage is a system. It's not just the love between me and you. It goes further than that. It's
literally an ecosystem.
Right. And because of that, it shouldn't be something that's easy to get out of.
Okay. When you say, so what would you say are the reasons that you would consider an easy way out? Like what have you heard? Like when people are getting out of the marriage, what do you hear? Like basically like the whole irreconcilable differences type of thing, or okay. I literally just had this thought.
Yeah.
What would you say if, let's say, there is a law that was in place where if you want to get a divorce, you have a three-year probation period where you can be separated or whatever it is, but you have to wait 3 years before the divorce is actually final. Like what I mean is,
see the purpose of that.
Well, what I'm saying, okay, because you're saying that it should be harder to get out of.
Absolutely.
And you remember, in our work and the research we've done, statistically, if I'm not mistaken, 7 out of 10 unhappily married. If 7 out of 10 unhappily married couples, if they stick it out for 2 years or more, they end up 70% of them, or over 70% of them, end up feeling happier than they were before. Yeah,
it's kind of like in one of my one of my relationship coaching classes was talking about that. That most couples get divorced right at the time where they're about to have a massive breakthrough that would be life changing for them. So when the
How
pressure,
would they know that?
Because they go through therapy. So they talk to the couple and they, see how they're describing their relationship before, during, after, and they kind of can see where they are at. What process are they in? Are they in what stage are they in? Are they still stuck symbiotically, like codependently? Are they independent? Have they individuated from one another? Like they can see these things. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
And the reason for that is gosh, how do I explain this? There's a certain amount of pressure that when you feel it, you're either going to quit 100% or you're going to fight hard 100%. It's like because it's just the intensity so hard, it's so tough that you're either going to be like, F it, we're out, we're done, we're divorcing, or it's going to be so hard, so tough that you're going to be like, we're going to fight through this. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So when we make marriage super easy to get out of, and again, I'm not talking about obvious situations that most of us would agree that a marriage should break up for.
Or what's it called? What's the word? No deal breakers. Deal breakers. Yeah.
No, not necessarily deal breakers, because people have deal breakers that they shouldn't get out of a marriage for. Yeah, it's because sometimes people will think a deal breaker is how romantic he is.
Oh.
Sometimes people will call a deal breaker for the sex has gotten boring. Sometimes those are not deal breakers. Those are not reasons to leave a marriage. Those are reasons to learn how to improve.
Those are reasons to break up with a boyfriend.
Right. Maybe. Sure. Yeah, you have whatever, but those are not deal breakers. People will call them deal breakers, but those are really things to work through, to learn how to get better at. Real, true deal breakers requirements are things like whether or not someone wants children or not.
Which should have been established before.
Right, but a lot of people don't do that prior to. But we just use that term deal breaker so loosely. That's why I don't want to just say deal breaker here, because there are a lot of things people call deal breakers that
not really
can be worked on, is what I'm saying.
I got you.
Yeah. Whether or not you have children can't be worked on. It's either you have them or you don't.
So things that can't be fixed, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I don't want any children is a big one.
Yeah, because how you can, which it's either you have them or you don't have them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Okay. So
I probably didn't answer. I think you asked me a question that I might not have answered. Remind me if I
no,
didn't.
I understood what you said.
Okay.
I understood what you said. What is one of the from the couples that you've coached, the married couples that you've coached, what is the main issue that you find between them?
Power dynamics. It's going to be power dynamics. It's what I've learned, period, that it's power dynamics. So especially in our modern society, there are not 50-50 right. There are not clear-cut lines between what her role is and what his role is. So because of that, the couple can get really stuck in a battle of power.
There are a lot of assumptions.
I didn't expect to do it. Yeah. And they don't create vision before they get married. So then once they're married, they start to feel like, oh, this is what I asked for, without realizing they never actually verbally asked for anything. So that's a really, really big one for people. And I just want to make sure here that I explain clearly what a actual requirement or deal breaker is in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And that's what you just, because you said it, and I'm just hoping nobody glossed over it, mm-hmm. because it's basically yes, no. Mm-hmm. There's no if. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes it a deal breaker. Mm-hmm. It's basically like, if I say
things you can't change.
Right. I just don't want people to gloss over it, which is why I want to reiterate that a deal breaker and a requirement means it's either yes or it's no. There is no if, meaning, will you or do you want children? Mm-hmm. Yes, but I'm okay not having children if. That's not, there's no requirement, a deal breaker there. And also he has to be 6'2". Okay, what if he's 5'11"? He's a good guy. He is romantic, all the things that you want. Yeah, that's fine. I'll take that. Therefore, 6'2" is not a requirement. It's not a deal breaker. A deal breaker requirement means it's a black and white. Yeah. Yes, no. There is no if. There is no gray area in that. Right.
As long as he's spiritual, that's not.
Yeah, there is. Right. Yeah. Then that means that it's not there is no if in a deal breaker, in a requirement. And I know that you did say it. I just didn't want people, because you said it so quickly. Yeah. I didn't want people to just gloss over it.
Okay. Yeah. Forgot the question I asked. Yeah. So you were saying, so power dynamics. Okay. Can you give me some examples of like a power dynamic? Like, for example, let's say right now people are saying, oh, it's all 50-50 and that's the hot topic right now.
Yeah.
What are the statistics on those marriages?
I don't want to state them because it's been a while since I looked at them. But the reason why 50-50 marriages don't work is for an obvious reason. That now I don't want anyone to say I'm in a 50-50 marriage and it's working. I don't want anyone to say, well, I know this girl, she was in and it was working. There are always going to be anomalies on the outside of things. I'm just talking about in majority types of situations is what I'm referencing. The reason is because if you want to go 50-50, that's what boyfriends and girlfriends do, right? She has her account. She has her apartment. She pays for her light bill. She pays for this. He has his account. He pays for his light bill. He pays for his everything. And everything is separate. Sometimes she'll pay for a date. Sometimes he'll pay for a date. That's what boyfriends and girlfriends do. Okay? That's what they do. So whenever people want to bring the concepts that are for a boyfriend and girlfriend into the concept of a marriage, it just doesn't work in a marriage, because a marriage is supposed to be different from when you are just in a relationship with someone that's your boyfriend. There's supposed to be differences. I don't know if a lot of people understand that there's supposed to be differences. So you're not supposed to be living the exact same way that you live with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. There's supposed to be differences.
Okay, give me, what are those differences?
Well, one, when people get to the altar and they say, and they listen to the pastor, the preacher, or the judge, whoever marries them, the officiant, whatever, say the part where, two become one happily ever after. People will gladly say, yay, two become one when they're at the altar. But then once they, after the honeymoon, there's this expectation that there's no longer two becomes one. We go right back to being two completely separate individuals. That's problematic. It just really is. The whole point of a marriage is you're building the system that you're then going to pass down onto the next generation. That's the whole point. The point isn't supposed to be that you feel like you have your separate, and you're good. No, because when that marriage ends through what do they say? Till death do us part. When that happens, then that entire system that you guys built goes to your children. That's the whole purpose. That's the whole point. It's not just for selfish reasons, like what are you giving me and what am I giving you? Right. That's not what it's supposed to be.
Right. And that's
it's supposed to be primarily about moving in, how do we nurture and grow the next generation to progress further than we did? And then for our children to think the same way. How do we nurture and grow our children to go to progress further than we did? That's the whole point.
How do we make and nurture better versions of ourselves, pretty much.
Yeah, of ourselves, and also economically too. How do we continue to go up and up and up? When we treat relationships like that's not the point of it, then we end up with all types of problems where the children are starting from scratch. Their parents started from scratch. Now the kids are starting from scratch. Then their kids are going to start from scratch. Then their kids are going to start from scratch.
It's bad.
It's just really bad.
Okay. What's another? So definitely power dynamics. How about how does that play in terms of you're saying two become one? In terms of bank accounts, how do you feel about couples who have separate bank accounts?
It's an issue because in marriages, there are certain things that there should be no secrecy around. Now, if both partners have access to both accounts, it's very different. But when we're dealing with a situation when both partners have separate accounts where they don't have access to each other's accounts, that leads the way, that opens the doorway for secrecy. And that's problematic.
Yeah.
It's just not a good,
Yeah. And like you said, it's basically two people living as roommates or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever.
They're boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah. That decide to come together. Okay.
Yeah.
What's another what's the second highest reason that you've seen in terms
of what do you mean?
In terms of the couples having difficulty with each other? Difficulty
a lot. Usually it's the wife complaining about he doesn't talk enough. He doesn't express his feelings to me. That's very common. He just shuts down on me when I'm trying to talk to him. Those are usually the reasons why the wife will drag the husband into couples therapy.
Right.
But the problem with that is when the wife drags the husband into couples therapy, what happens is she's dragging him in there for the therapist to fix him. So one of the gripes that I can have with men is that when they tend to be the ones that resist going to couples therapy, they don't view that as an opportunity to be heard by someone else in terms of the struggles that he's having in their relationship. And that is his opportunity to have his struggles, pains, and things like that heard, and to also have someone else help them figure out how to improve their relationship. But it's very common for men to get into a therapist office, couples therapist office, and just shut down and not really have much to say, or be very limited in what he does and doesn't say. There are good reasons for that, but I just don't think it's helpful for him, because when your wife comes to you and says, let's go to couples therapy, you should say, great, let's go. And you should be very open when you're sitting in that couples therapist office as well, instead of shutting down and not sharing much.
Right. Okay.
Well, maybe you can tell me. Maybe you can tell me why you think. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, maybe you can tell me why you think so many men resist going to couples therapy, from your perspective.
I don't know if it's a resistance to couples therapy or therapy at all. So, from the things I've heard, a lot of men don't trust the process. Okay. The NBA now has female staff. Sometimes they have female assistant coaches. They have female refs. The NFL has female refs. Sometimes they have female staff now, right? Because they're trying to
do the feminism thing.
Do the feminism thing, right? Yeah, correct, right? So women can do things now, right? And I guess it's kind of like, I think men are very competitive, and I think men are, can sometimes, not all, can automatically see who's sitting in front of them and think she's going to be on her side, because 7 out of 10 therapists are women, right? And let alone the race of those women as well, right?
Can I ask you a quick question? Sure, just because, because I'm so far agree with what you're saying. What is it that stops him from saying, yes, I'll go, but I would prefer to see a male therapist?
Well, before we even get there to actually go to therapy, I think men are wired or indoctrinated, I don't know if that's the right word, or it's ingrained in them to not need help with anything because that's a weakness.
Understood.
To be steadfast, to be strong, to be unwavering, to not be emotionally volatile, to not show emotion.
Quick question here. Again, it's just for understanding sake. Because I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
That, that men are ingrained or conditioned to feel like they can solve everything themselves. I agree with you on that 100%. So my question there is, because one of the things that I hear often, I think a lot of women do too, in social media land, is men saying that it's women that don't want to take accountability. So my question for you is, if men are ingrained to handle everything on their own and feel like they can handle everything on their own, who do they feel they should be accountable to? Other than themselves.
That's a great question. It's like, I think men have like this, you'll hear this a lot. Get it done type of approach, right? So if there's something wrong, figure it out.
Therefore, so that's what I'm saying. So who do they feel like they should be accountable to? Because all over social media, we hear that women don't take accountability. But to take accountability, that implies there's another person on the other end of that interaction.
All that men are saying is that they rarely hear women say sorry.
It's cool, but no, that's fine. But I'm just saying, when we're talking about accountability,
it's somebody else's fault, not the woman's fault.
That's what I'm saying. When we're talking about accountability, that means there's another person on the end of that interaction. So if men say that I can figure everything out on my own, and I can, I'll figure this out, and, who does he feel like in life he should be accountable to? Because right now it's sounding like he doesn't feel like he should be accountable to anyone but himself. And if you are in a relationship, can he see why that would be problematic?
You're saying accountable, like basically, that's my fault, that's my bad, I did that type of thing,
and changing behavior as well, because he would first have to see that he's doing something wrong in the first place, but he's the judge and jury there. If he's saying, I decide whether or not I did something wrong, because as a man, I figure things out. So I'm just trying to, because there could be a lot of things he's doing wrong that if he doesn't asking another person, he may not recognize it as something being wrong. So when a man says that he has the ability to recognize when he's doing something wrong or not, that tells me that he believes that he doesn't have any blind spots at all. So in a way, it's kind of perfection almost.
Yeah. Well, if a man has real friends around him, those should be people that can hold them accountable. Like I have, it's not that many, but my best friend basically definitely holds me like, hey, what are you doing there? And I do it with him as well too. We get into it quite often because of that, but it's all love at the end of the day. Other than that, but then again, if men are saying other men hold them accountable, and men, for the most part, men are doing way better than they were before in terms of going to therapy. Yeah. I am in therapy. So
yeah.
So, so I get where you're going. If men are having their male friends hold them accountable, and their male friends don't hold themselves accountable by, realizing their poop stinks, right? And going to see a therapist and figuring out their crap. Yeah. Then who's holding anyone accountable?
And not only that, but for a man to hold another, there's something interesting there, because if a man goes to his friends to hold him accountable, he's the one narrating the story to the friend. So that already starts it off kind of problematic, right? Because that friend is only getting his side of the story and his interpretation of what happened in his relationship. So that already starts it off biased and skewed as is, right? So that's number one. Number two, in order for the friend to even keep you accountable, he would have to know what would be considered wrong to a wife. So if he doesn't even know what would be considered wrong to a wife, he can't even help you to hold you accountable for what you might have done wrong. He would first have to be very knowledgeable as to a woman's experience in order to even help you in that way. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, it was just, the question. So again, like they'll say things like, they're just going to try to get me to do something I don't want to do. They think they're going to be controlling.
Like
they don't trust it. Yeah. They don't trust them. Yeah. And I'll hear, I'd rather go talk to a pastor, which I don't think they even do that either. But I'd rather go. Well, if they have a father figure, I'd rather go talk to my dad or something like that. But for the most part, that's mainly what I hear. Yeah. But in reality, you're 100% correct. It's something that needs to be said a lot more. Going to therapy is taking accountability for your own stuff. Yeah. And instead of pointing a finger at what women need to figure out, what women need to understand. If you're the leader, we'll lead by example, type of thing.
Yeah, and couples therapy also gives you the opportunity to learn the language that your wife will understand well. It's a mistake for a man or a woman to think that they already know the language just naturally, know how to speak the language that their male or female partner is speaking, because a lot of times they're speaking two completely different languages and they're not even aware of it. So when you have a neutral party like a couples therapist, they can help you recognize that probably saying the same thing, but from two different languages. Therefore, you're not understanding each other. So that it's helpful.
Okay. Yeah. So that was, you were the one asking me the question.
Yeah.
You were saying
why they don't want to go to couples therapy.
Yeah. And then there was something else you asked me before that, because we kind of like segued into.
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Couples therapy. You're asking me questions about men in marriage and so on and so forth. About, I think you're saying about accountability and yeah, I probably lost it. Okay,
I lost it too.
Yeah, that's fine. It's okay. It's okay. We have a lot going on, so yeah. Yeah.
I have another question for you though.
Oh yeah, no,
if you feel like you answered,
you're good.
Okay. Yeah. What are the biggest complaints that men currently have that makes them resistant to getting married?
That's a good one. Because of how liberated women are, modern women are sexually, a lot of men will see they black and white it. For every, kind of like how the hip hop industry is now with the women, and and the women that enjoy that kind of music, right? They see extreme vulgar, extreme blah, blah, blah. And they basically, if they see 2 or 3 girls dancing to it, all of them are.
Okay.
Right. And they'll extreme it, like, oh, women now, this is why all men think women need money. Women want a Gucci bag. Women want this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah.
That's one of the hesitations for marriage. I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So basically, because they think it's a losing contract. It's a contract that it's set up for them to lose on, because if she feels like she hasn't, like you said, to your point, if she feels like what's the word I'm looking for here, that she's bored or irreconcilable differences or whatever, basically if it's easy for her to get out of the marriage, it's like, oh, she can go, and then not only that, now I have to, because if I make more money than her, I have to pay this, I have to pay that, I have to, I can see my kids for sorry, I'll say it again. If let's say she decides to get divorced, not because I cheated, not because I'm a gambler, not because I'm an abuser, not because a drug addict or any of those things, it's because, I don't know, she's like say outgrown me or something like that, right? Which can mean a number of different things. Oftentimes it means that she's doing her therapy work and you're not. Right? Which I still don't think is a reason, but because eventually
we're gonna have to disagree on that one a little bit.
Okay,
but then we'll talk about it.
Right,
we'll talk about it.
Because you said requirements. Right? Yes, no. Right? Because I can see a bunch of people saying, I'm not good with it. I'm good at my, and then eventually realize, oh, they see the difference it makes in other people. Especially when it hits home, and they're kind of like, oh, snap, let me do this. It's kind of, I'm not trying to get off track. But it's like, I personally, I'm not going to say who they are, but I personally know some people who were like, therapy is like a money grab. It's just people just trying to get in your head and tell you what to do, blah, 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 until their nephew, right, was diagnosed with certain things. And that's when things got real for them. And then now the nephew's in therapy, he's doing a lot better, and so forth.
So they need something really bad to happen before they believe in therapy.
Men, sometimes they need to see it in order to believe it. Now, so why are men will go to the gym? They see the results. They know, they feel the results. They see the results, right? First, you're telling a group of people, for the most part, who has never been able to access in a comfortable way their feelings, to go somewhere they've never been or aren't comfortable being, and think that there's going to be an outcome where it's positive at the end. And so, for example, you can feel muscles burning while you're working out. You can feel muscle soreness after you've little tiny tears after you've broken the muscle down. You can see your gains. You can see the weight. So these are things you can touch, feel, whatever, right? The brain, on the other hand.
Do you feel like you can see the happier wife? Or do you think that you wouldn't get, so meaning when you're couples therapy, so you're saying that when he goes into therapy, he doesn't see that there's an actual positive outcome. Would you say that his marriage not ending up in divorce would be a positive outcome? And would you say that he can also see that his wife is happier and that they are more intimate with each other? Or do you think that he doesn't believe that that's a possibility and he's just completely resigned himself in the relationship period?
I think a lot of men can see needing to go to couples therapy as a failure.